My hands trembled with silent rage as my sister Lauren smirked across the Christmas table. "The garage is ready for you," Mom announced while they laughed. 5 years of hiding my tech empire, enduring their mockery because I thought family meant everything. Lauren's boss, Richard Hartman, paled as his phone exploded with messages from the mysterious CEO they all feared. The woman who controlled their entire industry. Me. But they didn't know that yet. Tonight, they'd learn why banishing me was their biggest mistake. The smell of cinnamon and pine needles hit me as I stepped through my parents' front door in suburban Minneapolis. Snow clung to my boots, melting into small puddles on the hardwood floor Mom had installed last year. I'd paid for those floors, though she'd never know it. "Sandy's here," Tyler called out from the living room, his voice carrying that familiar edge of disappointment. My older brother had perfected that tone over 35 years. I shrugged off my simple black peacoat, hanging it on the same hook I'd used since childhood. The designer suit in my car would stay hidden. Tonight, I wore faded jeans and an old college sweatshirt, maintaining the careful illusion I'd crafted for 5 long years. "About time," Mom said, emerging from the kitchen. Patricia Henderson had aged gracefully, her silver hair styled in the same bob she'd worn since I was 12. "We were about to start dinner without you." Traffic was terrible, I said, which wasn't entirely false. My driver had navigated through a snowstorm to get me here from the airport. "Still driving that old Honda?" Dad asked, looking up from his newspaper. George Henderson believed in 2 things: hard work and judging his children by their bank accounts. "Still running fine?" I lied. The Honda had been donated to charity 3 years ago. Lauren swept into the foyer, her honey blonde hair cascading over a cashmere sweater that probably cost more than my fictional monthly rent. At 28, my younger sister had mastered the art of making success look effortless. Her engagement ring caught the light, sending rainbow prisms across the wall. "Sandy, so glad you could make it. How's the freelancing going? Still doing those little design projects?" Her voice dripped with false sweetness. "Keeping busy," I replied, biting back the urge to mention the 3 patents I'd filed last month. "Well, that's nice." She linked arms with her husband Marcus, who gave me a pitying smile. "Marcus just got promoted to senior partner at the firm. Isn't that wonderful?" "Congratulations," I said, genuinely meaning it. Marcus had always been kind, even if he'd married into a family that valued wealth over warmth. Tyler appeared with his wife Jennifer, their 6-year-old twins racing around their legs. "Girls, say hello to Aunt Sandy." "Is she the poor aunt?" Madison asked with the brutal honesty only children possess. "Madison," Jennifer scolded, though her cheeks flushed with embarrassment rather than shame at her daughter's words. "It's okay," I said, kneeling to the twins' level. "I might not have lots of money, but I have something better. Want to know what it is?" "What?" Mackenzie asked, her eyes wide. "The ability to keep secrets," I whispered, winking at them. "All right, enough stalling. Dinner's ready," Mom announced, ushering us toward the dining room. The table groaned under the weight of Christmas Eve traditions: honey-glazed ham, sweet potato casserole, green beans with almonds, and Mom's famous cranberry sauce. I took my usual seat at the far end, the same spot I'd occupied at every family dinner since we'd moved to this house 20 years ago. "Before we begin," Lauren said, standing with her wineglass raised, "Marcus and I have an announcement." My phone buzzed against my leg. I glanced down to see a message from my COO: "Hartman acquisition ready for your approval. Urgent response needed." "We're pregnant," Lauren squealed, her free hand moving to her still flat stomach. The table erupted in congratulations. Mom actually cried. Dad broke out his special occasion scotch, and Tyler clapped Marcus on the back hard enough to make him stumble. 8 weeks along, Lauren continued basking in the attention, which brings us to a small logistics issue. Here it comes, I thought, already knowing where this was heading. Since I'll need to be close to the main bathroom during the night, Mom and Dad have graciously offered us their master bedroom for the evening. "Of course, sweetheart." Anything for our grandchild, Mom cooed. And Tyler and Jennifer will need the guest room for the twins, Lauren added, her eyes finally landing on me. Which means, oh, the garage. I finished, my voice steady despite the fury building in my chest. Like last year. Oh, Sandy, don't be dramatic. We've set it up nicely. There's a space heater and everything, Mom said, as if that made banishing me to a glorified storage unit acceptable. You understand, don't you? Lauren's smile could have frozen hell itself. I mean, it's not like you have anyone to share a room with. The table fell silent for a moment, everyone suddenly fascinated by their plates. Even the twins sensed the shift in atmosphere. Of course, I said, cutting into my ham with deliberate precision. Whatever's best for the baby. Conversation resumed, flowing around me like I was a rock in a stream. Lauren dominated, regaling everyone with stories from Hartman Industries, where she worked as a marketing executive. Richard Hartman himself complimented my latest campaign, she boasted, said I have the best innovative mind he's seen in years. My phone buzzed again. This time a text from my head of acquisitions, Hartman's company bleeding money, desperate for our contract renewal. Without it, they're finished within 3 months. I smiled into my cranberry sauce. What about you, Sandy? Tyler asked, though his tone suggested obligation rather than interest. Any big freelance projects? Just finished a rebrand for a tech startup, I said, truthfully, omitting that the startup was my subsidiary company that had just gone public for $800 million. See, startup. Lauren laughed. Those never amount to anything. Remember when you wasted 2 years trying to build that app? What was it called? Data something. Data Vault, I corrected quietly. Right, thank God I talked you out of pursuing that disaster. Can you imagine you running a tech company? She giggled, and the rest of the family joined in. Oh, speaking of careers, Lauren continued, her voice taking on a more serious tone. Sandy, there's something I should tell you. Remember when you applied for that entry-level position at Hartman Industries last month? I hadn't applied for anything, but I nodded, curious where she was going with this lie. Well, Richard asked for my opinion since you listed me as a reference. She paused for a dramatic effect. I had to be honest with him. I told him you weren't quite Hartman material. We have standards, you know. I recommended against hiring you. The silence that followed was deafening. Even Mom looked uncomfortable. You told him not to hire me? I asked, my voice dangerously quiet. It was for your own good, Lauren insisted. You would have been miserable there, surrounded by actual successful people. I saved you from embarrassment. My phone exploded with notifications. Emergency board meeting requests, contract deadlines, acquisition approvals, all needing the attention of Montgomery, CEO of Data Vault Technologies, the mysterious figure who controlled the cloud infrastructure for 60% of Fortune 500 companies, the person Richard Hartman had been desperately trying to reach for 6 months. You're right, I said, standing slowly. I don't belong at Hartman Industries. So, see, she understands, Lauren said to the table. Sandy's always been realistic about her limitations. If you'll excuse me, I said, I should go set up my things in the garage. Wouldn't want to be in the way of successful people. As I walked out, I heard Dad mutter to Mom, maybe next year she'll finally get her act together. If only they knew that next year I'd own the very ground they stood on. But first, I had a freezing garage to endure and an empire to run from the shadows. Richard Hartman thought he was desperate now. He had no idea what was coming. The Christmas Eve humiliation was complete, but the night was far from over. The garage door groaned as I pulled it open, a blast of Arctic air stealing my breath. Minnesota winters showed no mercy, and apparently neither did my family. I dragged my suitcase across the concrete floor, its wheels catching on every crack and oil stain from Dad's vintage Corvette restoration project. The nice setup Mom had mentioned consisted of a rusted camping cot wedged between towers of Christmas decoration boxes and Tyler's old golf clubs. A small space heater wheezed in the corner, its orange glow providing more psychological comfort than actual warmth. The temperature gauge on the wall read 18 degrees Fahrenheit. I unpacked my laptop, hands already stiffening from the cold. The irony wasn't lost on me setting up a command center for a billion-dollar tech empire between a broken lawnmower and boxes labeled Sandy's childhood junk, probably garbage. My breath formed clouds as I opened an encrypted video call. 4 faces appeared on screen, my executive team, who'd given up their Christmas Eve for this emergency meeting. Sandy, where the hell are you? Asked David Chen, my chief operating officer. Is that a garage? Family Christmas, I said simply. What's the situation with Hartman? Critical. His investors are pulling out. Without our contract renewal, Hartman Industries won't survive past March. He's been calling our office nonstop, demanding to speak with S. Montgomery. I pulled a blanket around my shoulders, trying not to shiver on camera. These people had followed me from nothing to everything. They didn't need to see me relegated to the status of unwanted luggage. Revenue projections, I asked. Data Vault cleared $2.3 billion this quarter alone, reported Maria Santos, CFO. The Hartman acquisition would add another $400 million in assets, though honestly, we're mostly buying them for their client list. And their marketing director, I asked casually. Lauren Henderson. She's been flagged by our ethics team. Apparently, she's been submitting designs to Hartman that match patents filed by A. S. Henderson 5 years ago. Legal wants to investigate intellectual property theft. I smiled despite the cold. Interesting coincidence. Sandy, interrupted James Wright, head of security. I don't like you being alone on Christmas Eve. Your location shows a residential garage with minimal heating. This is unacceptable. I'm fine, James. With all due respect, you're worth $1.8 billion. You shouldn't be freezing in a garage because your family doesn't know who you are. He was right, of course. 5 years ago, I'd made the decision to keep my identity secret. Back then, Data Vault was just a dream and $2,000 in savings. I'd worked 18-hour days from my studio apartment, surviving on ramen and determination. The breakthrough came when I developed an encryption algorithm that revolutionized cloud storage security. Within 6 months, major corporations were begging for contracts. Within a year, I'd hired 50 employees. By year 3, Data Vault had become the invisible backbone of American digital infrastructure. Through it all, I remained S. Montgomery to the world, a mysterious figure who refused interviews and public appearances. Only my executive team knew the truth. To my family, I was just Sandy, the freelance graphic designer who couldn't afford a proper apartment. Ma'am, Maria continued, should I proceed with the Hartman acquisition? My phone lit up with a text from Lauren. Hope you're comfortable out there. Try not to freeze. Draw up the papers, I decided, but I want a specific termination clause. Any executive found guilty of intellectual property theft is immediately dismissed without severance. That's unusually specific, David noted. Call it a Christmas gift to honest employees everywhere. The space heater sputtered and died. Of course it did. I wrapped the blanket tighter, my fingers turning blue as I typed authorization codes. Sandy, I'm sending someone, James started. No, I need to be here. Trust me, this is part of something bigger. We concluded the meeting with plans to execute the acquisition on December 26th. As their faces disappeared from my screen, I sat alone in the freezing dark, surrounded by the detritus of a family who saw me as their greatest disappointment. I opened my personal files, scrolling through 5 years of achievements they'd never know about. The photo with the president at the Tech Innovation Summit, where I'd received an award for revolutionizing data security. The Time magazine cover story about the mysterious S. Montgomery, who built an empire while remaining completely anonymous. The scholarship fund I'd created that had already sent 300 young women to coding boot camps. A particularly vicious gust of wind rattled the garage door. I checked the time, 2 in the morning. In 6 hours, I'd have to walk back into that house and pretend to be grateful for their scraps of attention. My laptop screen illuminated a childhood photo tucked into a box nearby. 7-year-old me grinning with missing teeth wearing a t-shirt that said, "Future CEO." Mom had bought it as a joke. Dad had laughed, ruffling my hair and saying, "Maybe start with something realistic, kiddo." The cold seeped deeper into my bones, but something else burned hotter. Not revenge exactly, something more precise. Justice. I pulled up Richard Hartman's desperate emails to S. Montgomery. 63 messages in the last week alone, each more frantic than the last. "I'll do anything," the latest one read. "Name your terms. I need this contract renewal, or I lose everything." Everything. I understood that feeling. I'd lost everything the day my family decided I was worth less than a garage space, the day Lauren laughed at my dreams, the day Tyler called me a failure in front of his daughters, the day Mom and Dad stopped believing in me. But sometimes losing everything is just the universe making room for something better. My assistant pinged me. "Ms. Montgomery, I've noticed unusual activity on Lauren Henderson's Hartman Industries profile. She's been accessing confidential files about the contract negotiations with Data Vault." "How interesting," I murmured. "Please document everything." Also, Richard Hartman has posted a public plea on LinkedIn offering a $100,000 finder's fee for anyone who can arrange a meeting with S. Montgomery. I laughed, the sound echoing off the concrete walls. Lauren would see that post. She'd scrambled to find information about the mysterious CEO her boss was desperate to meet. She'd never imagined the answer was shivering in the garage she'd banished me to. The space heater flickered back to life for exactly 30 seconds before dying permanently. I closed my laptop and curled up on the camping cot, still wrapped in the thin blanket. My phone showed the temperature had dropped to 15 degrees. As I lay there staring at the ceiling where Dad had written "Sandy's Corner" in faded Sharpie when I was 10, I thought about revelation. Not the kind that comes with fanfare and drama, but the quiet kind. The kind that builds in the dark, in the cold, in the places where nobody thinks to look. They thought they'd relegated me to the margins of their life. They had no idea they'd actually pushed me to the center of something much bigger. Tomorrow would bring Christmas morning, and with it the beginning of the end of their illusions. But tonight I had an empire to run from a freezing garage, and honestly, I'd built Data Vault under worse conditions. At least here I had walls. 6 hours of broken sleep on a 30-year-old camping cot left my spine feeling like someone had practiced origami with it. Ice crystals had formed on the inside of the garage windows, and my phone showed the temperature had dropped to 12 degrees overnight. The blanket might as well have been tissue paper. I checked my emails while my joints protested every movement. Overnight, Data Vault's Asian markets had pushed our valuation past $2 billion. Meanwhile, Richard Hartman had sent 17 more increasingly desperate messages to S. Montgomery. The latest, sent at 4:43 a.m., simply read, "I'm prepared to offer anything. Please respond." The side door connecting the garage to the kitchen creaked as I pushed it open. Warmth hit me like a physical force, along with the smell of coffee and Mom's homemade cinnamon rolls. The same ones she used to make for Christmas morning when we were kids, back when I still had a place at the table instead of the garage. Laughter floated from the living room. I paused in the doorway, watching my family gathered around the 12-foot Douglas fir that I'd anonymously paid to have delivered. They looked like a Christmas card parents in matching sweaters. Tyler helping the twins distribute presents, Lauren curled against Marcus on the love seat. Nobody noticed me. "This one's for you, Mom," Tyler announced, handing over a gold-wrapped box. "Oh, you shouldn't have," Mom exclaimed, though her tone suggested otherwise. She tore into the paper, revealing a designer handbag. "It's perfect." Our turn. Madison and Mackenzie chorused, diving into their pile of presents. I cleared my throat. Merry Christmas. The cheerful atmosphere cooled by several degrees. Lauren glanced at me over her coffee mug, taking in my wrinkled clothes and probably the dark circles under my eyes. Sandy, you're up early, Mom said, as if I'd had the luxury of sleeping in that freezer. There's coffee in the kitchen. Thanks. I moved toward the tree where a small pile of presents sat segregated from the main abundance. The contrast was almost artistic in its cruelty. Oh, we started without you, Dad said, not looking up from the smartwatch Tyler had given him. Didn't want to wake you. Translation, you weren't worth waiting for. I poured coffee with hands that shook from cold, not emotion. Definitely not emotion. My phone vibrated against my hip, my head of legal confirming the Hartman acquisition papers were ready for my signature. Aunt Sandy. Mackenzie ran over, clutching a new tablet. Look what Santa brought me. That's wonderful, sweetheart. I smiled at her genuine excitement, remembering when I'd been that young and innocent before I learned that love in the Henderson family came with income requirements. Sandy, your present, Mom said, gesturing vaguely toward the tree. I retrieved the single box with my name on it. Inside was a $25 gift card to a local coffee shop, the same amount they'd given me for the past 5 years. Tyler's watch probably cost $2,000. How thoughtful, I said, pocketing the card. Just what I needed. Well, we figured with your situation, Mom trailed off delicately. Every little bit helps, right? Right. Lauren stretched like a cat who'd gotten all the cream. Marcus surprised me with a trip to Bali, 2 weeks at a 5-star resort. To celebrate the baby, Marcus added, beaming at his wife. And your promotion, Lauren corrected. Can't forget that senior partnership. My phone rang, the caller ID showing my personal lawyer. I let it go to voicemail, but the damage was done. Who's calling you on Christmas morning? Lauren asked, her predatory instincts activated. One of your freelance clients. Don't they know it's a holiday? Just a spam call, I said, but she'd already moved quick as a snake, snatching the phone from my hand. Let's see what kind of spam calls my big sister gets. She squinted at the screen. Richardson and Associates law firm, Sandy, are you in some kind of legal trouble? Give it back, Lauren. What did you do? Default on your student loans, get sued by a client. She waved the phone above her head like we were children again. Come on, share with the family. We can't help if you don't tell us your problems. Lauren, Marcus said quietly, give her the phone. I'm just trying to help, Lauren protested, but she'd seen something on the notification preview that made her pause. Wait, this says something about acquisition documents. What acquisition? I reached for the phone, but she danced back, her marketing executive mind already spinning. Are you trying to buy something with what money? The doorbell saved me from answering. Mom frowned. Who could that be? Everyone's here? Dad opened the door to reveal Richard Hartman himself, looking like he'd slept less than I had. His usually perfect hair was disheveled, his designer suit wrinkled. Behind him stood a woman and 2 teenagers, his family. Richard. Lauren jumped up, smoothing her cashmere sweater. What are you doing here? I apologize for the intrusion, he said, his voice hoarse. I was hoping, that is, I wanted to. He noticed me and dismissed me just as quickly, another household staff member not worth acknowledging. Lauren, it's crucial that I speak with you, privately. Of course, everyone. This is my boss, Richard Hartman. Richard, you know my family. Introductions were made, hands were shaken. I was overlooked entirely, standing by the tree with my $25 gift card while everyone fawned over the great Richard Hartman. Can I get you coffee? I offered, playing the role they'd assigned me. That would be wonderful, he said without looking at me. Black, no sugar. I retreated to the kitchen but kept the door cracked. Years of being invisible had taught me that people say the most interesting things when they think nobody important is listening. I'm sorry to crash your Christmas, Richard was saying, but I'm desperate. The mysterious S. Montgomery, the CEO of Data Vault, they're going to destroy me. Destroy you, Lauren's voice pitched higher. What are you talking about? They own everything, Lauren. The cloud infrastructure, the security protocols, the data management systems. 60% of the Fortune 500 runs on their technology, including us, and our contract expires in 5 days. S- so renew it. Tyler suggested, ever the problem solver who saw simple solutions to complex issues. I've been trying for 6 months. Richard's composure cracked. S. Montgomery refuses to meet with me, won't return calls, won't acknowledge emails. And now I hear rumors they're planning to acquire Hartman Industries entirely. I returned with his coffee served in Mom's best china. He took it without acknowledgement, his hands shaking slightly. There must be something we can do, Lauren said, her mind clearly racing. What do we know about this S. Montgomery? Nothing, absolutely nothing. They've never given an interview, never appeared publicly. Some people think S. Montgomery doesn't exist, that it's a board of directors using a fake name. Have you tried? I've tried everything, Richard interrupted. I've hired private investigators, tech experts, corporate spies. I've offered a public bounty of $100,000 just for a meeting. Nothing. His phone buzzed, then again. Then it didn't stop. His face went from red to white as he read. No, 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 no. What is it? Lauren asked. Emails. Dozens of them. From S. Montgomery's legal team. His voice became very small. They're proceeding with the acquisition, and there's a termination clause. Any executive found guilty of intellectual property theft will be immediately dismissed. Lauren's face went through a fascinating journey of emotions. That's oddly specific. Your department is specifically mentioned. Richard continued, scrolling with increasing panic. Something about designs submitted over the past year matching patents filed by someone named S. Henderson. The coffee mug in Lauren's hand tilted dangerously. That must be a mistake. Is it? I asked quietly from my corner. Didn't you submit a cloud security interface design last month? The one with the blue gradient and nested authentication protocols? Everyone turned to stare at me. Lauren's mouth opened and closed like a fish. How could you possibly know about that? She whispered. I shrugged, settling deeper into my assigned role as the family failure. I read tech blogs sometimes. That design looked familiar. Wasn't there a patent filed for something similar about 5 years ago by an S. Henderson? Sandy Henderson. Tyler connected the dots faster than I'd expected. But you never filed any patents. You failed at that tech thing, remember? Did I asked, taking a sip of my own coffee. Or did someone just assume I failed because I stopped talking about it? Richard Hartman's phone was now buzzing so intensely, it was practically dancing across the coffee table. Each notification seemed to deepen the lines on his face. This can't be happening, he muttered. My entire company, 3 generations of work. Maybe, I suggested gently, S. Montgomery values different things than you assumed. Maybe they're not interested in money or recognition. Maybe they're interested in justice. What would you know about it? Lauren snapped, fear making her vicious. You sleep in a garage. By choice, I asked, or because that's where family puts people they've decided aren't successful enough. The room went very still. Even the twins stopped playing with their new toys. Richard looked at me, really looked at me for the first time. Something in my expression must have triggered a memory, because his face went from white to gray. The coffee, he said slowly, at that tech conference 5 years ago. You served me coffee, but you weren't catering staff, were you? You were wearing a speaker badge. I smiled the same smile I'd practiced in mirror before every board meeting where I had to remain anonymous. I don't know what you mean, Mr. Hartman. I'm just a freelance graphic designer who sleeps in garages. His phone rang. The caller ID showed simply S. Montgomery office. Answer it, I suggested. Your future is calling. Richard Hartman stared at his phone like it was a live explosive. The Montgomery office flashed on the screen, each ring echoing through my parents' suddenly silent living room. His thumb hovered over the accept button, trembling. Answer it, Lauren hissed, her face the color of spoiled milk. Maybe they want to negotiate. Richard accepted the call with the enthusiasm of someone signing their own death warrant. Hello. He listened, his expression cycling through confusion, shock, and then something approaching terror. Yes, I understand. Yes, ma'am, of course, immediately. When he hung up, the phone slipped from his nerveless fingers. What did they say? Lauren demanded. Montgomery's assistant. She said her boss is willing to meet today, in 1 hour. He swallowed hard. But there are conditions. Anything, Lauren said quickly. We'll do anything. I have to bring my entire executive team, including my marketing director. His eyes found Lauren, and she said to make sure I bring the woman who's been stealing designs for the past 18 months. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 20 degrees. Mom's hand flew to her mouth. Dad set down his coffee with a sharp clink. Stealing, Tyler repeated. Lauren, what is she talking about? It's a misunderstanding, Lauren's voice pitched higher with each word. Those designs were collaborative efforts. Sandy abandoned her work years ago. She gave up. Did she give up? Marcus asked slowly. Or did you convince her to give up? I remember you telling me about discouraging her from that tech startup. I was protecting her. She would have failed. Like she failed at getting hired by Hartman Industries. I asked, examining my coffee cup. Oh, wait, she didn't fail. You sabotaged her application. That's different. I knew she couldn't handle. Couldn't handle what? My voice remained calm, conversational. Couldn't handle success. Couldn't handle proving you wrong. Couldn't handle making you look average by comparison. Richard was frantically scrolling through his phone, pulling up email after email. These patents, Henderson filed them 5 years ago. Every single design you submitted, Lauren. Every innovation you claimed credit for. They're all here. Those were my interpretations of abandoned concepts, Lauren insisted, but her lawyer husband was already shaking his head. That's not how intellectual property works, Marcus said quietly. You know that. We talked about this when you first submitted them. You said Sandy had formally transferred the rights. She did verbally. What, Kia? I asked. When you told me I was wasting my time, when you convinced Mom and Dad to stop supporting my ridiculous fantasy, or when you laughed at me for thinking I could build something meaningful. My phone buzzed. A text from my assistant. Car will arrive in 45 minutes. Hartman acquisition documents ready for your signature. I need some air, Richard announced, stumbling toward the front door. His family followed his wife, shooting poisonous looks at Lauren. This is your fault, Lauren rounded on me. You and your jealousy. You couldn't stand that I succeeded where you failed. Failed. Tyler laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. Sandy, those patents, are they worth anything? The authentication protocol alone has generated about $400 million in licensing fees, I said casually. The encryption algorithm closer to $600 million. But who's counting? Dad's coffee mug shattered on the floor. You're lying, Mom whispered. You can't have... You live in a studio apartment. You drive a 15-year-old Honda. I donated the Honda 3 years ago, and I don't live in a studio. I pulled out my phone, scrolling through photos I'd never shown them. This is my penthouse, 42nd floor, nice view of the city. The photos showed glimpses of a life they'd never imagined. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Minneapolis. A home office bigger than their entire first floor. Art they'd recognize from museums. But you never said anything, Dad stammered. When would I have said it? During the annual garage sleeping arrangement while you were giving me $25 gift cards and $2,000 watches to Tyler. Or maybe when Lauren was explaining why I wasn't Hartman material. I was trying to protect you, Lauren repeated, but the conviction had drained from her voice. No, you were trying to protect yourself. from comparison, from competition, from the possibility that your older sister might actually be exceptional. My phone rang again. This time the caller ID simply said, David Chen. I answered, yes. Sandy, the car will be there in 30 minutes. The acquisition is moving forward. Hartman's board has agreed to all terms, including the immediate termination clause for IP theft. Understood, I'll be ready. Also, the investigation into Lauren Henderson is complete. We have documented evidence of 37 instances of design theft over 18 months. Legal recommends immediate termination and potential criminal charges. Let me think about it, I said, ending the call. The room had gone completely silent. Even the twins sensed the shift, clutching their new toys while watching the adult's world restructure itself. S. Montgomery, Tyler said slowly. Sandy Montgomery? Actually, just the S stands for Sandy. I thought it sounded more mysterious. I shrugged. Turns out people take you more seriously when they can't put a face to your success, especially when that face is female. You're S. Montgomery, Lauren repeated. You're the one Richard's been desperate to meet. The one who controls... Her voice cracked. Everything. Not everything, just the infrastructure that most of corporate America runs on, including Hartman Industries, which as of today, I'll own entirely. You're going to fire me. It wasn't a question. That depends entirely on you. I stood suddenly exhausted by years of pretending. You have 40 minutes to decide what matters more, your pride or your future. Sandy, sweetheart. Mom started reaching for me with hands that had pushed me away for years. Don't. I stepped back. For 5 years, you've made it clear that I'm only worth what my bank account says. Well, congratulations. My bank account says I'm worth $2 billion. Does that make me family now, or do I still sleep in the garage? Richard burst back through the front door, his phone clutched in his hand. The meeting location. S. Montgomery wants to meet at this address, this house. Everyone turned to stare at me. Surprise, I said flatly. Turns out the garage was good for something after all. It's where I ran a billion-dollar empire while you were deciding I wasn't worth a real bed. But how? Dad's voice was barely a whisper. We would have noticed. The money, the success. You only notice what you expect to see. You expected failure, so that's all you saw. Every time I succeeded, you found a way to minimize it. Every achievement became luck. Every milestone became a fluke. That's not true, Mom protested. Isn't it? When I told you about my first major contract, you said it was nice that someone gave me a chance. When I mentioned traveling for business, you assumed I was lying to sound important. When I stopped talking about Data Vault, you were relieved because it meant you were right about my limitations. My phone buzzed with the final notification, car arriving in 15 minutes. 15 minutes, I announced. That's how long everyone has to decide who they want to be. The family who banished success to the garage, or the family who learns that love shouldn't come with income requirements. I headed for the stairs. I need to change. It's Christmas after all. Even hostile takeovers deserve proper attire. Sandy, wait, Lauren called out. What do you want me to do? I paused at the doorway. The same thing I've been doing for 5 years. Figure out how to succeed without anyone believing in you. The difference is, you only have to do it for 15 minutes. I had to do it for half a decade. As I climbed the stairs to my childhood room, I heard the living room explode into chaos. Accusations and denials, pleas and justifications. The sound of a family discovering that their carefully constructed hierarchy had been built on foundations of sand. 15 minutes to restructure their entire worldview. 5 years ago, they'd given me less than that before deciding I was worthless. The irony was almost poetic enough to make the garage worth it. I descended the stairs in a different armor than my family expected. Gone were the thrift store jeans and faded college sweatshirt. In their place, a custom-tailored black suit that cost more than Dad's car, paired with the watch I'd received from the Swiss Tech Innovation Council. The transformation was deliberate, calculated to shatter their last illusions. The living room looked like a war zone. Lauren sat hunched on the couch, Marcus's arm around her shoulders as she sobbed into his shirt. Mom clutched Dad's hand with white knuckles. Tyler paced near the window, his real estate agent mind probably calculating how much my penthouse was worth. Richard Hartman stood by the door like a condemned man waiting for execution. "The car's here," I announced. Through the window, a black Bentley idled at the curb. James Wright, my head of security, emerged from the driver's seat. 6 feet 4 inches of former Navy SEAL, he surveyed the house with professional disapproval. "That's your car?" Madison asked, her 6-year-old priorities laser-focused on the shiny object. "One of them," I admitted, then knelt to her level. "But you know what's better than fancy cars, being kind to people before you know how much money they have." The doorbell rang. Mom jumped like she'd been electrocuted. "That would be my legal team," I said, moving to answer it. 3 lawyers entered, led by Richardson himself. The man who'd helped me structure Data Vault from the beginning, who'd believed in a 27-year-old with wild dreams and algorithms nobody understood. "Ms. Montgomery." Richardson nodded deliberately, using my professional name. "The acquisition documents are ready. Mr. Hartman's board has agreed to all terms, including the termination clause. Especially the termination clause. They're rather eager to distance themselves from any ethical complications." Richard made a sound somewhere between a whimper and a groan. "Please, my family founded this company. My grandfather built his success on other people's innovations," I suggested. How poetic that it might end the same way. "Sandy, please." Lauren stood, mascara streaking down her cheeks. "I'm pregnant. I need this job. The insurance, the stability." "The same stability you denied me when you told Richard not to hire me." I pulled out my phone, showing her the email. "I have your exact words here. Sandy Henderson lacks the innovation and drive necessary for corporate success. Hiring her would be a mistake." I was wrong. "Yes, you were." I turned to Richardson. "Pull up the evidence file on Lauren Henderson." The lawyer connected his laptop to Mom's smart TV. Suddenly, the screen filled with documents, patent applications, design submissions, side-by-side comparisons showing my original work and Lauren's interpretations. "The 37 instances over 18 months, Richardson narrated. Total estimated value of stolen intellectual property, $62 million. $62 million, Tyler whispered. "Sandy, you created $62 million worth of designs." "That's just what Lauren stole. The full portfolio is valued at approximately $400 million. "But you gave them to me," Lauren protested. "You said you were done with tech." "I said I was done talking to you about tech. There's a difference." I nodded to Richardson, who pulled up another document. "This is the transcript from our conversation on March 15th, 5 years ago. You'll note there's no transfer of rights. Just you telling me I was delusional and needed to face reality." "You recorded our conversation." "I recorded everything, every dismissal, every insult. Every time you convinced Mom and Dad I was wasting my life." I smiled coldly. "Corporate habits, document everything." My phone buzzed. "Excuse me," I answered, putting it on speaker. "Yes." "Ms. Montgomery, this is the Wall Street Journal. We've heard rumors about the Hartman acquisition. Would you care to comment?" "I'll have a statement after the documents are signed. Though you might want to investigate some interesting intellectual property developments at Hartman Industries. We've received an anonymous tip about their marketing director, Lauren Henderson." Lauren's face went gray. "You called the media?" "I didn't have to. Corporate acquisitions of this size don't stay secret, especially when they involve potential criminal charges for IP theft." Richard's phone exploded with notifications. Board members, investors, clients, all demanding explanations. He fumbled to silence it, but the damage was visible on his face. "It's over," he muttered. "3 generations of business. Gone." "Not gone, transformed." I gestured to Richardson. "Show them the real terms." A new document appeared on screen. Data Vault Technologies acquisition of Hartman Industries. Terms: full retention of all employees except those terminated for cause. Expansion of operations. Investment of $500 million in new development. "You're not destroying the company?" Richard looked up, hope flickering. "I'm saving it. From you. From leadership that values connections over competence. From a culture that protects thieves because they're charming at office parties. But the termination clause applies only to executives guilty of ethical violations." I looked directly at Lauren. "Currently, that's a list of 1. "You're going to ruin me," Lauren whispered, "in front of everyone on Christmas." "I'm giving you a choice. The same choice you gave me 5 years ago. Adapt or fail. What choice, you hold all the cards." "Do I?" I pulled out a folder, handing it to her. "Option 1. You're terminated for cause. The IP theft goes public. Criminal charges are filed. You lose everything." She opened the folder with shaking hands. "And option 2. You resign quietly. Sign an admission of guilt that stays sealed unless you reoffend. You forfeit all claims to the stolen designs and pay restitution from your Hartman stock options." That's almost $1 million. $62 million in theft, $1 million in restitution? I'd say you're getting a bargain. "And then you start over. Like I did. From nothing. No connections, no safety net, no family convincing you that you deserve success just for existing." Marcus read over her shoulder, his lawyer mind processing. "This is generous, Lauren. More than generous. It's a gift." "A gift," she laughed bitterly. "She's taking everything." "I'm taking back what was mine. There's a difference." I checked my watch. "You have 5 minutes to decide." "What about the rest of us?" Dad asked quietly. "What happens to your family?" "That depends. Are you my family? Because family doesn't sleep in heated bedrooms while making one member sleep in a 12-degree garage. Family doesn't laugh about someone's failures while refusing to see their successes." "We made mistakes," Mom said, tears flowing freely, "but we love you." "You love the idea of me, the struggling artist who makes you feel successful by comparison. Can you love the real me, the billionaire CEO who built an empire while you were deciding I wasn't worth a real bed?" "I can," Mackenzie said in a small voice. "You're still Aunt Sandy." "Out of the mouths of babes." I smiled at my niece, the first genuine smile since I'd arrived. "Thank you, sweetheart. You're right. I'm still Aunt Sandy." 2 minutes, Richardson announced. Lauren grabbed a pen, her hand shaking. "If I sign this, what happens to me?" "You learn what I learned. That real success comes from your own efforts, not from standing on someone else's shoulders." I moved toward the door. "James, please bring the car around. We have a company to officially acquire." "Wait," Richard stumbled forward. "The meeting. S. Montgomery, you said there would be a meeting." I paused at the threshold. "We just had it." "Congratulations, Mr. Hartman. You've been acquired. Your first assignment in the new structure is to implement a company-wide ethics review. Start with your own department." "My department?" "Oh, didn't I mention you're being demoted to department head? The CEO position requires someone with actual vision." "Who?" I smiled. "To be announced, though I hear Data Vault has an excellent executive training program. We believe in promoting from within, based on merit, not connections." Lauren signed the documents, each signature looking physically painful. Richardson collected them efficiently. "It's done," she said numbly. "I've lost everything." "No," I corrected. "You've been given something precious, a chance to earn your success honestly. That's more than you gave me." My phone rang. The caller ID showed Bloomberg News. The story's breaking. I told Richardson, time to go. As we moved toward the door, Mom called out desperately, Sandy, when will we see you again? I turned back, taking in the scene. My family huddled together in their matching Christmas sweaters, surrounded by expensive gifts that suddenly seemed meaningless. The tree lights twinkled, mockingly illuminating a dynasty built on assumptions that had crumbled in a single morning. That depends, I said finally. When you look at me, what do you see, the failure in the garage or your daughter? Nobody answered. The silence said everything. I thought so. I adjusted my suit jacket armor against their eventual attempts at reconciliation. Merry Christmas. Enjoy your gifts. I hear the garage is particularly cold tonight. The Bentley door closed with the soft thud of luxury engineering. As we pulled away, I saw them through the window, 5 adults and 2 children frozen in tableau, processing the complete inversion of their world. Where to Ms. Montgomery? James asked. The office. We have an acquisition to finalize. On Christmas? Especially on Christmas. I pulled up the Data Vault homepage on my tablet. After all, empires don't take holidays. Behind us, the house grew smaller, taking with it 27 years of assumptions about my worth. Ahead lay a future where value wasn't determined by family opinions or garage sleeping arrangements. The best gifts, I decided, were the ones you gave yourself, even if they came wrapped in corporate acquisitions and termination clauses. The Data Vault Technologies headquarters rose 47 floors into the Minneapolis skyline, a monument to what others had deemed impossible. As the Bentley pulled into the private entrance, I spotted news vans already gathering. Word traveled fast when billionaires made moves on Christmas Day. Vultures are circling, James observed. Let them circle. Today they feed on truth. The executive elevator whisked us to the top floor where my team had assembled despite the holiday. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, the city sparkled with Christmas lights, unaware that one of its biggest corporate dynasties was changing hands above them. Maria Santos rushed forward. The acquisition is trending on financial Twitter. Hartman's stock is in freefall. It'll recover once we announce the restructuring. Is everyone here? Board members are on video conference. Legal team is in the main conference room and... She hesitated. Your family is in the lobby. My family? I moved to the security monitors. Sure enough, there they were. Mom, Dad, Tyler, Lauren, Marcus, even the twins. They looked lost among the marble and steel, dwarfed by the corporate machine they'd never imagined I commanded. Security wants to know if they should remove them, James said. No, let them wait. Let them see what they missed while they were relegating me to the garage. I turned away. Conference room, now. The conference room hummed with activity. Lawyers, accountants, executives, all sacrificing their Christmas for this moment. On the main screen, Richard Hartman appeared via video link, his board of directors arranged behind him like a funeral party. Mr. Hartman, I settled into the CEO chair I'd earned with blood, sweat, and algorithms. Ready to proceed. Yes. He shuffled papers with shaking hands. Though I still don't understand why you hid your identity. Why let me treat you like the help, like someone beneath notice? I pulled up my laptop. Would you like to see something interesting? The screen shifted to security footage from various tech conferences over 5 years. There, I was serving coffee at one, standing in the background at another, present but invisible, gathering intelligence while industry titans discussed their vulnerabilities. You were there, Richard breathed, at all of them, listening, learning, understanding how men like you think, what you value, what you dismiss. I smiled. You told me yourself at the Singapore summit, the key to success is recognizing talent before your competitors do. Ironic, considering you looked right through me. I didn't know. Exactly, you didn't know, because I didn't fit your mental model of success. Too young, too female, too willing to serve coffee while wearing a speaker badge. Ye, the patents? One of his board members interrupted. Did Lauren Henderson really steal them? I nodded to Richardson, who distributed tablets to everyone. 37 instances, documented, verified, and legally actionable. Ms. Henderson built her entire career on her sister's innovations. This is catastrophic, another board member muttered. The PR alone. What will be managed? I interrupted. Data Vault has already prepared a statement. Hartman Industries was the victim of a rogue employee. Under new management ethics, violations will be met with immediate termination. The company's commitment to integrity remains strong. You're protecting us, Richard asked. I'm protecting the innocent employees who had nothing to do with this. The engineers, developers, support staff who come to work every day and do honest jobs. They shouldn't suffer because their leadership failed them. My personal phone buzzed. A text from Tyler. Please, we need to talk. The twins are crying. They don't understand why Aunt Sandy left. I ignored it, focusing on the contracts. Page 47 outlines the new corporate structure. Data Vault will maintain Hartman as a subsidiary brand. All employees retain their positions except those terminated for cause. The termination clause, Richard said heavily, Lauren has already resigned. She'll be announcing it tomorrow, citing personal reasons. No scandal, no lawsuit, just consequences. That's generous. That's strategic. I don't need to destroy her publicly. Living with the knowledge that everything she achieved was stolen, that's punishment enough. Another text, this one from Mom. The garage door is open. Your old camping cot is still there. I'm so sorry. Ms. Montgomery, Richardson prompted, we need your signature. I signed with the same pen I'd used for my first Data Vault contract when I was nobody, with nothing but belief in myself. The acquisition was complete. Hartman Industries now belonged to the empire built in silence. Congratulations, Richard said, defeat heavy in his voice. You've won. What did I win? A company? I could have bought 10 companies. Revenge, too petty. Justice. Perhaps? I stood facing the windows overlooking the city. What I won was proof. That talent doesn't announce itself with connections and privilege. Sometimes it builds quietly in the shadows you create when you decide someone isn't worth watching. David Chen entered, tablet in hand. The press release is ready. Also, your family is causing a scene in the lobby. Security footage shows your sister on her knees crying. On the monitors, Lauren knelt on the marble floor, my parents trying to lift her. Even from 47 floors up, I could see the destruction of her carefully constructed self-image. Send them up, I decided. Conference room 3. It's time they saw what they missed. Are you sure? Maria asked. They spent 5 years making assumptions about my worth. Let them see the reality. 10 minutes later, my family filed in like defendants entering court. Lauren's perfect makeup was destroyed, leaving her looking younger and more vulnerable than I'd seen since childhood. Mom clutched her purse like a life preserver. Dad seemed to have aged a decade in an hour. Sandy, Mom started. Miss Montgomery, I corrected. In this building, I'm Ms. Montgomery. They flinched at the formality. Good. Is this real? Tyler gestured at the opulent conference room, the city view, the obvious wealth. All of it. Define real. The company, yes. The money, definitely. The success you couldn't see because it didn't match your expectations, absolutely real. I touched a button, bringing up Data Vault's corporate profile on the screen. Revenue streams, client lists, innovation patents, awards, recognitions. 5 years of astronomical growth they'd missed while focusing on my failures. $2 billion. Dad read, his voice hollow. You're worth $2 billion. Actually, 2.3 as of this morning. The Hartman acquisition added value. But how? Lauren whispered. I watched you fail. The startup that went nowhere. The job applications you couldn't land. You watched what you wanted to see. The startup became Data Vault. The job applications, I stopped sending them when my company's revenue hit $10 million in year 1. You lied to us. I stopped talking. You chose to interpret silence as failure. There's a difference. Marcus, ever the lawyer, studied the papers Richardson had provided. This timeline, you started the day after Lauren told you to give up on tech, the day she said you'd embarrass the family by trying. Funny how rejection can be motivating. We would have supported you, Mom insisted, if we'd known. If you'd known I was rich, you'd have supported me. I laughed, but it held no humor. That's exactly why I didn't tell you. I needed to know if my family's love came with conditions. That's not fair, Tyler protested. You deceived us. I lived the life you assigned me. Struggling artist, family disappointment, garage occupant. You never asked if there was more. You never wondered why I stayed calm when you mocked my failures. You never questioned why someone supposedly broke could fly to Singapore for a freelance project. The Singapore trip, Mom breathed. You said you were designing a website. I was signing a $100 million contract with the Minister of Technology, but you were too busy lecturing me about fiscal responsibility to ask for details. I pulled up a photo on my phone showing me shaking hands with world leaders at the Global Innovation Summit. This was 3 years ago. I mentioned I was attending a tech conference. You said, don't waste money you don't have on foolish dreams. How are we supposed to know? Dad's voice cracked. You never told us. I tried. 5 years ago, I came to dinner excited about Data Vault's first major breakthrough. You spent the entire meal telling me about Lauren's promotion to junior marketing associate. When I mentioned my patent approval, Dad said, patents don't pay rent. When I talked about venture capital interest, Mom said, don't get your hopes up. We were trying to protect you. From what success achievement? The possibility that the family hierarchy might need adjustment. Mackenzie tugged on Jennifer's hand. Is Aunt Sandy mad at us? I knelt to her level and my voice gentling. No, sweetheart, I'm not mad at you or Madison. You two are perfect. But you left on Christmas. Sometimes adults make choices that hurt other adults, but it's never your fault, okay? She nodded solemnly. Will you come back? I looked at the adults, all watching with desperate hope. That depends on whether they want Sandy the person or Sandy the billionaire. We want our daughter, Mom said quickly. Do you because your daughter slept in a garage last night? Your daughter was told she wasn't Hartman material. Your daughter was given $25 while watching her siblings receive thousands. That was before you knew about the money. Yes, that's the point. I stood returning to the window. I built this empire while you decided I was worthless. Every board meeting, every innovation, every success achieved while sleeping on camping cots and being told to be realistic about my limitations. What do you want from us? Lauren asked, her voice raw. I've lost my job, my reputation, everything I built. Everything you stole, I corrected. And what I want is simple. I want you to understand that for 5 years you had a daughter and sister who changed the world, and you missed it because she didn't fit your definition of success. Richardson cleared his throat. Ms. Montgomery, the press conference is in 30 minutes. Thank you. I gathered the papers documenting my empire. You can watch from here if you'd like. See your daughter announce the largest tech acquisition of the year, or you can go home and pretend this never happened. Your choice. Andiom. Dad stood approaching slowly. I know we failed you, but we're still family. Are we? I pulled up one last image on the screen. A photo from last Christmas. Me bundled in blankets in the garage running a $1 billion empire from a camping cot. This is what family looked like to you. Tell me why it should look different to me. Nobody answered. In their silence, I heard 5 years of assumptions crumbling. The press is waiting, I said. Time to show the world what S. Montgomery looks like. Spoiler alert. She looks exactly like the woman you sent to the garage. I walked out, leaving them surrounded by evidence of what they'd missed. Behind me, I heard Lauren sob. She was right there. The whole time she was right there, and we couldn't see her. No, they chose not to see her. But the world was about to get a clear view. The press conference room buzzed with energy as financial reporters from every major outlet jockeyed for position. I stood behind the stage, adjusting the same suit I'd worn to sign papers that redistributed corporate power across the tech industry. Through the monitor, I watched my family seated in the back row, looking small among the Wall Street Journal and Bloomberg reporters. 60 seconds, David announced. Ready to change the world. I already did. Now I'm just telling them about it. The lights dimmed, and I walked onto the stage to a barrage of camera flashes. The podium bore the Data Vault logo, my Quiet Revolution's banner. Good evening, I'm Sandy Montgomery, though you know me as S. Montgomery, CEO of Data Vault Technologies. Gasps rippled through the crowd. After 5 years of mystery, the revelation that S. Montgomery was a 32-year-old woman sent reporters scrambling for their phones. Today, Data Vault Technologies completed its acquisition of Hartman Industries. This merger creates unprecedented opportunities for innovation in cloud infrastructure and security protocols. But more importantly, it represents a transformation in how we define and recognize talent. I clicked to the first slide showing Hartman's steady decline over 2 years. Hartman Industries, despite its prestigious history, lost its way. It became a company that valued connections over competence, status over skill. Under Data Vault's leadership, that changes today. Ms. Montgomery, a reporter stood. Why reveal your identity now? Why stay hidden for 5 years? Because I wanted my work to speak for itself. Not my gender, not my age, not my connections, just the quality of what I built. I smiled. Also, it's remarkably educational to attend industry events as invisible support staff. You'd be amazed what CEOs say when they think nobody important is listening. Nervous laughter rippled through the room. Several executives in attendance shifted uncomfortably. The acquisition includes a comprehensive ethics review, I continued. Any employee found guilty of intellectual property theft faces immediate termination. We've already accepted the resignation of Hartman's marketing director, Lauren Henderson. In the back row, Lauren flinched. Mom reached for her hand. However, I added, watching my sister's face, we believe in redemption through action. Effective immediately, Data Vault is establishing the Second Chances Initiative, a program for professionals who've made ethical mistakes to rebuild their careers through supervised projects and mentorship. Admission requires full acknowledgement of wrongdoing and restitution where applicable. Lauren's head snapped up, hope flickering in her eyes. Ms. Henderson has already applied and been conditionally accepted. Her first assignment will be teaching ethics in technology at community colleges, sharing her story as a cautionary tale and guide for young professionals. That's unprecedented, another reporter called out. Why offer redemption to someone who stole from your company? I found my family in the crowd because someone recently reminded me that people deserve the chance to become better versions of themselves. A 6-year-old, actually. Children see potential where adults see only failure. The questions continued for 20 minutes. Stock projections, innovation plans, market strategies. Through it all, I watched my family absorb the reality of who I'd become while they weren't looking. Finally, a young reporter raised her hand. Ms. Montgomery, what advice would you give to other women in tech who face discrimination? Build anyway. When they close doors, build your own building. When they say you're not qualified, become undeniable. When they put you in the garage. I paused, letting 5 years of sleeping on camping cots fuel my words. Use it as your headquarters to build an empire they can't ignore. The room erupted in applause. As I left the stage, Richard Hartman intercepted me. The Second Chances program, he said quietly. Do I qualify? That depends. Are you ready to earn your position instead of inheriting it? Yes. God, yes. I want to prove I can be more than my grandfather's legacy. Report to Data Vault on January 2nd. You'll start in our executive training program, entry level. Entry level, he paled. But I ran a company. Into the ground. Now you'll learn to build one up. From the foundation. I patted his shoulder. Consider it a gift. Most people never get the chance to discover who they are without their safety net. I found my family in the emptying conference room. They stood as I entered, unsure whether to approach their daughter or the billionaire CEO. The Second Chances program, Lauren said immediately. Did you mean it? Every word, but understand the terms. You'll teach at community colleges for 2 years sharing your story of theft and consequences. You'll develop new programs under supervision. You'll earn $70,000 a year, decent money, but nothing like Hartman paid. And after 2 years, we evaluate. Maybe you join Data Vault properly. Maybe you find another path, but either way, you'll have earned it honestly. I'll do it, she said without hesitation. I'll do whatever it takes. Marcus squeezed her shoulder. I'm proud of you for choosing the hard path. Whoa, speaking of hard paths, I turned to my parents. The house in Minneapolis, I own the mortgage, have for 2 years. What? Dad stumbled, but we never missed a payment. To me, I bought it from the bank when you refinanced. Every payment you've made has been to a Data Vault subsidiary. I pulled out the deed, which means I can do this. I signed the bottom line and handed it to them. Merry Christmas. The house is yours, free and clear. Sandy, no, Mom protested. We can't accept this, not after how we treated you. You're right. You can't accept it as a gift. I pulled out another document, which is why it comes with conditions. The house becomes the headquarters for the Henderson Family Foundation. You'll host monthly dinners for the young entrepreneurs who need support. You'll provide the encouragement you couldn't give me. A foundation, Tyler asked. For female tech innovators who've been told they're not enough, who've been relegated to garages, overlooked for positions, had their ideas stolen. I looked directly at Lauren. Who needs someone to believe in them before they've proven their worth in dollars? We'll do it, Dad said immediately. Whatever you need, we'll do it right. I know you will, because unlike 5 years ago now, you understand what you almost lost. Madison tugged on my suit jacket. Aunt Sandy, are you still mad? No, sweetheart, I'm not mad anymore. Good, because Mackenzie and I made you something. She produced a crumpled piece of paper, a crayon drawing of a house with stick figures. That's our family. See, you're right there in the middle, not in the garage. The simple honesty of it broke something in me. It's perfect. Can I keep it? Forever and ever, Mackenzie confirmed. I carefully folded the drawing and placed it in my pocket. I have something for you, too. I knelt down. How would you like to come to my office sometimes, learn about computers and coding? Can we? Their eyes went wide. Every Saturday if you want. But you have to promise something. When you're successful, and you will be never forget that everyone deserves kindness, rich or poor, in the house or in the garage. We promise. Jennifer wiped away tears. Thank you for showing them a different path. Miss Montgomery. James appeared in the doorway. The car's ready. The Tokyo team is waiting for your evening call. Of course. I stood smoothing my suit. The Empire never sleeps. Sandy, wait. Mom stepped forward. When will we see you again? Really see you, not the CO. The Foundation's first dinner is January 15th. I'll be there. But understand something, the woman in the garage and the CEO are the same person. You just couldn't see it before. We see it now, Lauren said quietly. All of it. The strength it took to sleep in that freezing garage while running an empire. The dignity you maintained while we mocked you. The grace you're showing us now when we deserve nothing. Everyone deserves a second chance, I said. Even families who put success in the garage. As I walked toward the door, Tyler called out, Sandy, that camping cot in the garage. Should I throw it out? Keep it, I decided. Frame it if you want. Remember, that's where Data Vault really began. In the cold, in the dark, in the place you put people you've given up on. We'll never give up on anyone again, Dad promised. Good. Because the next S. Montgomery might be sleeping in someone's garage right now waiting for a chance to change the world. I left them there, surrounded by the evidence of what love without conditions could build. The Bentley waited outside, ready to carry me to the next challenge, the next innovation, the next impossible thing people would say couldn't be done. But first, I pulled out Madison's drawing. A family with me in the middle, not the margins. It wasn't worth $2 billion, but somehow it was worth more. "Where to Ms. Montgomery?" James asked. "The home," I said, surprising myself. "My actual home, with the good heating and the bed that's not a camping cot. And tomorrow?" "Tomorrow we change the world again. But tonight?" I looked back at the building where my family was planning their foundation, their redemption, their new understanding of success. Tonight, I'm just thankful I don't have to sleep in the garage. As we drove away, my phone buzzed with messages. Board members, reporters, world leaders, all wanting a piece of S. Montgomery's time. But in my pocket, a crayon drawing reminded me that the most important title I'd earned wasn't CEO. It was Aunt Sandy, and she was finally warm. The story of the garage and the empire built from its frozen corners spread across the business world. It became legend in entrepreneurship circles, proof that talent could thrive anywhere, even in the spaces where families put their disappointments. But for me, it was simpler than that. It was the story of a woman who refused to let others' definitions become her truth, who built warmth from cold rejection and turned a camping cot into a throne. Some people are born into legacy. Others build it from whatever corner they're given, even if that corner is a garage on Christmas Eve. The Henderson Family Foundation hosted its first dinner on January 15th. I attended, watching my parents serve young entrepreneurs with the enthusiasm they'd once reserved for Tyler's real estate deals and Lauren's marketing campaigns. Lauren spoke honestly about her theft and consequences, turning her shame into someone else's salvation. And in the corner where they'd installed a small plaque sat the camping cot. Below it, words that would guide every young dreamer who entered. Success isn't measured by where you start, but by what you build in the spaces others overlook. S. Montgomery, CEO of Data Vault Technologies, built from a garage, 2019-2024. But that's just the beginning of what changed. Because when you show the world that garages can birth empires, you inspire others to look at their own cold corners and see possibilities. And that's the real gift I gave my family that Christmas. Not money, not forgiveness, but the understanding that every garage is just a headquarters waiting to happen. Every dismissal is motivation in disguise. And every family has the choice to see potential or create garage dwellers. Mine finally chose to see, and that made all the frozen nights worth it. What would you have done in Sandy's position? Would you have revealed your success sooner or kept the secret like she did? Have you ever been underestimated by family or friends, only to prove them wrong later? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below about times when you turned rejection into motivation. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more tales of triumph over family dynamics and personal redemption. Share this with someone who needs to hear that their current circumstances don't define their future potential. Thank you for joining me on this emotional journey. Remember, sometimes the coldest corners of our lives become the birthplace of our greatest achievements. Until next time, stay warm, stay determined, and never let anyone banish your dreams to the garage.